Welcome on in, guys. Three Bold Takes. My name is Freddie, and I'm joined by another host, Quinn, and another host, Chase. So, welcome on in. This is a college football podcast, and today we are discussing the Cotton Bowl between Missouri and Ohio State. Obviously, Missouri won 14-3. Huge win for Drink. He ended up getting an extension until 2028. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think it was 2028. So huge for that program. 11-2 overall, New Year's Six bowl champions over Ryan Day and Ohio State, and that's kind of where I want to go here. Okay, Ohio State is like 2-13 against the SEC all time. Now, all that's not on Ryan Day, so I want to preface that to start with. Um, but he himself is 1-2 in playoff and national championship games, and he himself is 0-2 against the SEC. So there's a hurdle here for Ryan Day and Ohio State that needs to be jumped, right? Not to mention this is the third year in a row that they've lost to Michigan. So you couple that with all of the piss poor performances in the postseason. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat, Quinn? I mean, is that something that we should be talking about here a little bit more?
Well, first I'll start with Missouri because I do want to talk about the team that won the game first, and then I'll talk about Ryan Day. Missouri. I want to say defensively they showed up big, but let's be honest with backup quarterback play and then the backup quarterback getting hurt, Ohio State's ability to move the ball completely died in that game. And credit to Missouri, they were struggling. Like Ohio State defensively was holding them to next to nothing until late in that game, but Missouri found it in themselves to pull through, get a big win for Drinkowitz. I am excited to hear Chase talk about that extension because I know he just loves Coach Drinkowitz over there in Missouri. But it was a big win for their program going forward. And it was honestly, I really enjoyed that game. I love watching defensive football games that played out similar to that Ohio State Missouri game. But you move to the question about Ryan Day, and Freddie, you brought it up. 1-1 in semifinal games, 0-1 in the national title, 0-3 against SEC teams, 1-3 against Michigan. I would preface it probably would be 2-3 if they would have played Michigan during the COVID season. But Michigan had conveniently got COVID right before the game that year, and they did not play. Either way, though, it's 3 straight losses to Michigan in that game. I would say Ryan Day is certainly on the hot seat. When you look at Ohio State, the way you view yourself as a program is as the premier program of your conference. Like there's you and there's everyone else in the Big Ten, or at least that's how you feel that the order should go. And right now, you have clearly and like firmly slipped behind Michigan. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Like 3 straight years of them winning that game, winning the Big Ten. We'll talk about it later. Michigan finally winning a playoff game. They're going to have a shot at winning a national title. If they do that, that's going to give them a title more relevant than yours. Your last one was a decade ago at this point. So, yeah, I would say definitely on the hot seat going into 2024 for Ryan Day. I'm honestly a little shocked given the track record of Ohio State that they didn't fire him at the end of this year, not because of the loss to Missouri, but instead because of the loss to Michigan.
Yeah, I think this is a when you look at Ryan Day and when you look at Ohio State, it kind of gives me USC. USC is always going to be able to acquire talent just based off their name. And how recent coaches like Urban Meyer and others have set up this Ohio State program is you should always be able to acquire talent. No matter what, off your name alone and how you handle the Big Ten in recent memory should be okay. I'm going to get some of the best recruits out there no matter what. And so now, and this is where that Jim Harbaugh quote comes in, Ryan Day was born on third base. He most certainly was. All the talent he was given, everything, all the keys that he was given was because of Urban Meyer. He kept getting some talent in, some recruits in that really elevated the program and kept him in title contention. Now you're seeing it where it's only Ryan Day, where it's only him controlling this program. You're seeing a lot of trouble from it. So I'm going to agree with Quinn there. I think he is on the hot seat. And let me talk about this with Missouri and Drinkwitz. First off, it's short-sighted to give him a contract after that. Between now and 2028, Drinkwitz will not have another 10-win season. Book it, bookmark it, whatever. I don't think so. I think Missouri's going to fall back to a 7-win team next year, maybe 8 wins if they're excited about it. I don't know. But losing to Drinkwitz in this game, they had nothing going the entire game. How do you not have a serviceable backup? At one point, Ohio State had 3 quarterbacks in there, and their third one took them to a national championship. Their third one. That's the kind of talent that's been at Ohio State. Now you have a kid that wears number 33 and barely can move the ball across half field. I mean, I think when you look at Ryan Day and how he's acquired talent and how he's not only acquired that talent, but developed that talent, it's been exactly how Freddie mentioned it. Piss poor. As simple as that. You get these level of guys, Marvin Harrison Jr., why does that kid not have nearly 2,000 yards? Why are these quarterbacks not like you don't have an elite quarterback in there he held CJ Stroud back. Look at what CJ Stroud has done in the NFL this season. So I definitely think Ryan Day and the way he's progressed his recruits and his culture, it's average. And if it wasn't at Ohio State, if he was at Michigan State, if he was at Nebraska, if he was wherever else, he wouldn't be good. And I don't think anybody else would be looking to hire him. I think they'd be looking to fire him. And just one quick more, Missouri, congrats to win this game. I said it. I'm not a huge Missouri fan, but I had a feeling they were going to win this game just because they were going to have the guys there, a lot of older guys that really showed out, did a really good job. Cody Schrader, LB3, really, really showed up in this game. Drinkwitz, though, just not a fan. Hate that he won this game because he's going to live on that until the day he dies, and he's going to think it was the national championship. But the last time Missouri did anything was 10 years ago when they went to the SEC championship and they had a decent season that year. He's not going to do it again. It was short-sighted to give him a contract like that. Stupid. Missouri just kind of set themselves back a couple years, I think. Freddie?
Your slander, it's unprecedented to me. Your slander and hatred for Mr. Drinkwitz here. I think it's a well-deserved contract. Not only for what he did this year, which was phenomenal, by the way. Only lost to Georgia by 9 on the road. Like that in and of itself is great. Almost beat them last year at home. You beat Ohio State. You beat one of the top 4 biggest brands in all of college football.
True.
And you're not. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm excited for them. I love seeing a team like Mizzou that is not used to all of this hype and excitement get them a win like this. This will propel them next year, and I think personally they'll have more than 8 wins next year. If you remember to the preseason, they were picked to finish 6th in the SEC East, not the SEC overall, the SEC East. And here they are at 11-2, with a Cotton Bowl win here against Ohio State. Now on to Ryan Day. Chase, I think me and you back to the Talking Heads days when he was hired, and Harbaugh said that comment that he was born on third base or second base, whatever it was. Me and you agreed with him. And Quinn, I think you were the only one that differed. Now, this is going back a long time, so I know our viewers now are not the same that was back then, but I've always been a Ryan Day, quote-unquote, naysayer, if you want to say that. I've never liked him. I thought that he was, I think he's a decent coach. You go 11-2, and you're in the college football playoff conversation every year. I think you're a really good football coach. And I don't know that I think he would be a decent football coach anywhere else but Ohio State. But the issue with Ohio State right now and Ryan Day and firing him is, who else can you hire that has this consistency? Right, that's the thing. If you want to take a chance on somebody that you think can get you over the top, okay, you do that. And then you have one 10-win season, end up like Michigan State, right? So I don't necessarily think they should fire him, but you have got to win something, man. At the end of the day, your biggest games of the year, you've got to come through. And at Ohio State, just like Quinn said, It's expected. It's not hoped for. It's not wanted. It's expected. And if you can't provide that, by all means, fire him. I'd be okay if they fired him. Now, the question is, I don't know who the heck they would get that would be as, consistent and as good at, and let's be honest, he is a good recruiter. Now, I mean, yeah, you can rely on your brand all you want to, but, USC isn't recruiting in the top 4. I mean, they may be top 15, 16 every year, but they're not in the top 4 in recruiting year in and year out. So I don't know, man. I think he's definitely on the hot seat next year, though. Especially considering that I don't think they draw Penn State next year. I think it's just Michigan. And then obviously I think they play Washington and Oregon, one of the two. We'll do a full schedule breakdown in the offseason. But it's going to be an interesting look in the Big Ten next year. If he does not win the Big Ten, especially with no divisions, if he's not make the Big Ten championship game, you got to fire him with no divisions.
Well, one more thing I want to add is if Ryan Day loses to Michigan next year, right? To me, they are in James Franklin and Penn State territory, where all of a sudden you are in like, hey, you're winning the games and you're competing, but you're not competing to the level that it's known for at Ohio State. And that's what I got to throw out there for Ryan Day. If you lose to Michigan again 4 years in a row, like it's to the point where like, okay, you're still getting us a great record, but it's not going anywhere. So,
not to mention Michigan's going to be in kind of a rebuild mode next year. They're heavily like loaded with seniors and juniors. So you got to kind of take the Big Ten by the horns. Yeah, like that's I think it's a must win to not just beat Michigan, but win the Big Ten next year.
Yeah, because I remember a time a couple of years ago when Oregon came into Ohio State and beat them down at their home house. And guess who's coming to your conference? Oregon. Guess who else is coming? Washington, who, oh, by the way, is playing for a national championship on January 8th. So you got to get it together if you're Ohio State. And if not, I don't know what to tell you. But this has been a great discussion, fellas. I appreciate you joining me. Guys, if you're new here, stick around, leave a like, hit the subscribe button. Let us know down below. Is Ryan Day on the hot seat? Would you fire him? Who would you hire if you had to fire him? That's another good question I'm sure we will discuss in the offseason. It's been another episode of 3 Bold Takes. I'm Freddie, joined by Chase and by Quinn. Have a good one. We'll see you again soon.